Hey Scott, how are you?
I'm awesome. How you doing, man?
Yeah, really good, thank you. The sun's shining. It's almost 30 degrees here in the UK, so it's a great day.
That's crazy numbers. I have no idea what that means. That's like 80 degrees in Fahrenheit, I think, somewhere in there. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really hot, and apparently it's going to be even hotter tomorrow, over the weekend, so it's great. How's things with you?
I'm really good. We're super busy. We're getting ready to launch another alcohol experiment. It starts, well, my first live is Sunday, but it starts officially July 1st.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited because I'm going to be involved in the alcohol experiment, and I know some of the guys in the group here have signed up, so it'd be good to talk some more about that and what people can expect from it. And yeah, it's great as well as a sort of it's a low cost kind of option for people who are sort of trying to crack sobriety and get a bit of structure in place.
Absolutely. So here's how it works. Every day for 30 days. Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, I gotta trim my beard. It's getting up there. I try to go too long. Anyway, every day for 30 days, we post one lesson a day in the group. And these were lessons that we recorded back in January. And they follow Annie Grace's book, The Alcohol Experiment, which is right here. It's her second book. And so as we go through the month, we cover one topic a day. And so we do that every day. And then also every day, and this is where Simon comes in, we're going to be doing live Q&As. So every single day, you get a live Q&A from a certified Naked Mind coach. So that includes me, that includes Simon. We have another coach. Her name is Carly. She's awesome.
She's
Um,
great.
and Annie is going to be doing a few of them too. So we're all going to be in there. We're going to be answering questions. It's based on the idea of taking an experiment. So a lot of people will take a 30-day challenge. But to us, a challenge is hard, right? A challenge is difficult. A challenge implies that what you're doing during that time, you won't like. And so we don't want you to have that sort of presupposition. We want instead to take a scientific approach and say, what would my life be like for 30 days without alcohol? That's it. Right now, there's no requirement. If 30 days is a long time for you and you can't make it all the way through, that's totally fine. We talk about that in some of the pre-videos. But the idea is instead of continuing to drink and dealing with that, we try to take these 30 days off and learn as much as we can. And it can open up an entirely new world to you around your thinking and the way you drink.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, for even from my point of view, when I'm getting involved in the lives, I find it so good as even a refresher and a reminder and just going over the things again. And I know some people have done these multiple. Not that I can't have one, I just don't want it.
Yeah, and I mean that's an important point. So I think a lot of people start this stuff and they think, oh man, at the end of this, they're going to expect me to not drink.
Yeah,
That's not the case, right? What we want is we want you to have the knowledge to make your own choice. And so there's a bunch of different options. Like some people will, yeah, like you said, it's the 30 days and they're just like, I'm done with, like, why am I doing this? Right? So some people will go that route. Some people will say, you know what, I want to moderate. And we talk about moderation in this. And we talk about what that actually means and how to do it in a way that makes sure that you don't end up getting out of control. Other people find that this is just the beginning. So some people will say, you know what, I think like alcohol free is for me, but I need some more support. I want to do something different. And it's sort of the launching pad for
yeah,
their exploration of this. And no matter what, at the end of this 30 days, and this is a really important thing, no matter what, at the end of this 30 days, you're walking away with knowledge and information. So no matter what decision you make, you're making that decision with a whole bunch more data. And that's why we call it an experiment.
yeah, absolutely. Hey Heather, nice to see you. Heather's one of our moderators in the group. So
Awesome. Yeah,
I thought you had a yoga class that you were going to go to. You've obviously skipped yoga. So,
me? Oh no, Heather. I was like, I didn't know.
um, yeah, although it's quite, when we talk about moderation, it's quite an interesting topic because whenever anyone mentions it in the group, it really stirs up some quite strong comments, often ones that get like reported and things like that, where it can be quite a hot and uncomfortable topic in the group. I don't even know if we should be discussing it. I mean, personally, moderation, I tried it, no way, it wasn't for me. And I think probably 98% of people in this group and in the sort of alcohol experiment groups realise that actually just the fact I'm here means moderation probably isn't right for me. And I know it wasn't right for you as well.
Yeah, well, here's how I look at it. And again, like the big thing here is you're making a conscious choice. So if that conscious choice is to moderate and you set up guidelines, we talk about setting guardrails for yourself, non-negotiables, and you live within those, then awesome. Now, a lot of people, and what happens quite often is a lot of people have tried moderation. Lord knows I did for years, right? For years, I would try oh my God, I tried so many different, right? So like, I'll only drink on weekends.
Yeah.
I'll only have 2 drinks in one sitting. I'll only do this. I'll only do that. I won't drink at home. That was another one. So like, if I was out, I could have a drink, but if I was home, I could. It just didn't work for me. But I think one of the main reasons that it didn't work for me is that I didn't understand the science behind alcohol, and I didn't understand why I was making it really difficult for myself by trying to do that, right? So by moderating through white knuckling it. And yeah, people do have very strong opinions on this. But at the end of the day, and this is key, at the end of the day, we're all on different paths. I talk about this a lot in any of the programs that we run where it's like, yeah, we all have very diverse backgrounds. So we have people from all over the world joining these.
Yeah.
They're doing all types of different things. They've had all types of different childhoods and adult experiences, and they're all different ages. They're all different. I mean, we just have a diverse group. However, there's a part of our story that's so similar, right? And that's this part about alcohol. And so we can agree on so many things. And I think one of the reasons that moderation kind of lights up a conversation is that can be very different for people. It just looks different for different people at different points in their life. But to be clear, like we're not going to be saying like, all right, now never drink again. Right. What we're going to say at the end of this is you have the data. Now you get to decide.
Yeah, exactly. Make your own choice based on what you've learned. And most people off the back of that realize, actually, do you know what? I just don't want to drink again.
Exactly. Yeah. And that does happen a lot where people get through it and they're like, yeah, like I was saying, like, why was I doing this? Like, I'm actually way happier.
Yeah.
And that's an awesome outcome.
It's quite interesting, actually. I know a guy who I actually recommended him to Annie to help her with some stuff that was absolutely nothing to do with the alcohol experiment. He's like a bit of a sort of business advisor, and he sort of was just giving her some advice and looking at some things for her. But he did the alcohol experiment. He actually had said to me, I think I drink too much wine. And, he certainly wasn't at the stage that I was at where I was drinking, a bottle or 2 bottles a night. But
Right.
he did the alcohol experiment. And I spoke to him last week, and he was just coming up to 30 days. And I said, how are you getting on? How are you finding it? And he said, it's really given me some clarity on my relationship with alcohol. He didn't feel he needed to stop completely, but he's so much more aware of his drinking and what he's doing. And yeah, it was really interesting for someone who actually didn't come at it from a sense of I've got a problem he just sort of did it because he wanted to understand what it was all about. And it was some quite interesting feedback there. But yeah, that was something. So Heather, you got a question. Let's dive in with that. So Heather says, having recently had the conversation with friends about whether I'm an alcoholic or not, does being an alcoholic mean you have to have lost everything, your home, your relationships, drinking to blackout? My friends say I'm not because they never really saw me struggling, but for me it was an internal struggle. Sorry, I'm going out, but I'll watch this back later. Thank you.
Oh,
so what's your thoughts on that?
I love this question. Because there's some things that we do at This Naked Mind where we really try to help you understand like how the medical community looks at things, what the reality is behind drinking, because there's so many beliefs, there's so many thoughts, there's so many emotions that are driving the way we feel. And this is one of those biggies. So if you are interested in that, was that from Heather? Yeah. So Heather, on our website, if you go to thisnakedmind.com, and I think Simon will also drop the link for the alcohol experiment while we're talking. But if you go to our website, right on the homepage, there is a paper that we wrote called "Am I an Alcoholic?" Now, I'd love you to read it, but I'm going to tell you the answer. And the answer is no, because no one is. alcoholic as a term has never been very well defined. And as a matter of fact, the medical community has moved on from using that term. So the DSM, right, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which is what psychologists, psychiatrists use to define mental.
Well, I think you've frozen there, Scott. See if we can get Scott back in a minute, guys. He's just frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we missed the last 10 seconds or so.
Oh, so what I was saying is that that doesn't use the DSM doesn't use the term alcoholic. They use the term alcohol use disorder. And alcohol use disorder is defined along a spectrum. So it's no longer this black or white thing of like, oh, am I an alcoholic or am I not? And think of the amount of shame and guilt and everything that comes with that label. And what I'm telling you, Heather, is just throw it away. Like, don't worry about it. It's not about being an alcoholic. It's about having an alcohol use disorder, which, by the way, when you look at what that is a human being having an addiction at some level to an addictive substance. What that means by definition is it means you're human. So yeah, and to get more to the point of your question, does, and I'm going to just replace the word, but does being an alcoholic or does having an alcohol use disorder mean you have to have lost everything? No, not at all. And that's the beauty of the spectrum definition. And so the idea behind this is you can answer some questions and you can figure out, all right, maybe I do have a mild alcohol use disorder or a moderate or a severe alcohol use disorder. But you can look at this and this will encourage people to get help sooner. Right? So instead of saying, well, I'm not an alcoholic because I haven't crossed this invisible line, I haven't had 10 DUIs. I haven't had, because these are the things we say to each other. I know I said this to myself, right? I'll never drink in the morning and I never got a DUI. Well, I quit drinking before I did either of those two things, but I could very easily have waited. So this isn't ultimately, Heather, this isn't about whether or not you're an alcoholic. It's about whether or not you feel your relationship with alcohol needs to change. And that could mean that it needs to change because you want it to change. It could mean it needs to change because you've had some adverse experiences or anything in between. So I would say ditch that word. Go check out on our website, the Am I an Alcoholic freebie. I think it'll really help kind of solidify this for you.
And it's interesting what you say about the spectrum, because I'm a firm believer that spectrum very much exists as well. And I've tested this. Like, my wife still drinks, when she might have a bottle or two of Prosecco over the space of a week. Yeah, she drinks way less than she used to since I stopped. But I said to her, could you live without it? Could you never drink again? Would you never drink again? And she said no. So therefore, she's on that spectrum somewhere. Okay, she wasn't like I was, and she wasn't at a stage where she felt it had a really tight grip on her, but it has some level of control in her life if she feels she can't be without it forever, full stop. So I firmly agree with that spectrum. So, to a degree, pretty much anyone who drinks is on that spectrum somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, and there are some people who drink very occasionally that won't score. So this is, you answer questions and you get points. So there are people that won't score in the mild category.
Yeah.
But an important thing to note is that, people can move over time. Like, I think if any of us took this, say 20 years ago, or depending on how old people are here, but, think of a decent amount of time in your drinking career. If I had taken this when I first started drinking, I wouldn't have registered at all. But as time went on, like if I went to like midway through my drinking career, I would definitely be in the moderate phase. And then at the end of my drinking career, I was firmly in the severe phase. So it is a spectrum, and that's the thing to keep in mind is people move up and down, and you can go down too. It's less common, but it does happen, right? I think of people who have kids, and I talk to people who are like, oh, I quit drinking when I was pregnant, and then I didn't really drink that much when I had kids. I used to drink a lot more, right? So maybe they were drinking a bunch, and then they had kids, and they stopped drinking, but then the kids got older, and they started drinking more and more, and they crept right back up. So it's a very dynamic thing.
Exactly. And one of the questions that we ask people to ask themselves in the alcohol experiment is, are you drinking more? Ask yourself, are you drinking more now than you were a year ago, 5 years ago? And actually take a look at that and get a bit analytical about it. So, right, we've got a couple more questions because I know you've got to shoot at half past.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Ron says, and hi Katya, Danielle, and everyone else who's on here as well. Ron says, I'm 59 days alcohol free. I thought I had the shift, but I passed the alcohol in the market the other day and my mind came up with, you proved your point already. How about a cold one tonight? I resisted, but got to wonder, are these damn drink thoughts ever going to give up? Do they become less and less frequent over time? So Ron's 59 days alcohol free. Well done, Ron. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I say start with that 100%. Like, congratulations, man. That's awesome. So here's the thing. I would actually suggest to you that this proves that the shift is even, is even stronger than you might have thought. Right? I'm assuming that you didn't. Yeah, it says you resisted. But if you walked by and had that thought, and then you thought nah and kept walking, that is a sign that it's happened. And that you're in a good place. So in terms of these alcohol thoughts, yeah, I love to talk about this in terms of patterns, right? So we've all had drinking patterns our whole drinking career, right? And some of us, it changes over time based on where we are and what we're doing and who we're with and all of that. But a very common pattern is people drinking after work or after school. And that is why it's really common to see someone talk about, okay, I need a drink. Like at the end of the day, I really start craving, right? And so these patterns come up. And so Ron, my guess is you've walked past that part of the grocery store or through that part of the grocery store and had that same exact thought plenty of times and stopped and just picked up a sixer, right? Like it's entirely, I'm going to guess that was the case. So what we're talking about here is behavior change. Behaviors change, of course, when you now, I will tell you, over time, that thought goes away. You will stop having that as often, and it's not going to be something that you're like constantly fighting. So well done. I think that's awesome, and they will become, less and less frequent over time. And if it was intense, they'll also become less intense because you're literally reprogramming the way you think.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I actually posted an article in the group earlier this week about the kind of 5 stages that Annie talks about in the alcohol experiment, from unawareness to awareness, right through to mastery. And truly mastering it, where you're completely free and alcohol just hasn't got a grip. Annie says, and I would absolutely agree, is it's kind of around the 6 month, even to 12-month stage, where you're completely free and it's just not on your mind anymore. And that's definitely what it took me. I was still walking past, I had a thing about these pubs, particularly the ones in London where they look all cozy inside and you can see people drinking a pint of beer. And still now, we went to the theatre a few weeks ago in London and I went past one and there was just that little ping in my mind and I walked on by and it went really quick. But that was a thing for me, and it kind of popped into my head quite regularly. But after around sort of 6 or so months, definitely the thoughts were really fading, and you're a good way in now, so it's great. Yeah. You just got to kind of surf those feelings.
Yeah, I'm over 3 years, and I'll tell you something. I actually go to those pubs. Like I go hang out with my friends there.
Yeah, okay.
And so this doesn't end up meaning like, oh, you can't be around it at all, right? And I'm comfortable in doing that because I know that my thinking has changed about it. And that's the whole thing. And yes, like I'll go there and I'll order a seltzer and they'll drink the first round, and probably somewhere like midway through the second round, I'm like, see it, like I'm done. Because it's just annoying to me, and where I am in my journey. But I don't have a problem being around it now. And that is the beauty. Instead of using willpower and white knuckling it through this and being in this state of like, oh, I got to stay away from it because I'm tempted. If you change your thinking about it, then you can be around it. It's entirely possible. It's all about what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, and truly changing your beliefs as well, that you can have a good time without it and that you don't need it to accomplish certain things or to feel a certain way. Scott, I'd love you to give a little bit of commentary or advice to Eve, who's been a member of the group for quite a while. She's a really active member. Nice to see her here. So Eve says, I'm a bit worried about how I'll deal with the next big traumatic situation in my life. Booze has always been my go-to. How do you deal with strong emotions and not give in?
Awesome question. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit to answer this. So one of the things that can happen when we drink over long term is we kind of lose the ability to connect with what we actually need. So here's a great example, right? If say you're stressed one day, you're coming home from work, you're like, man, I'm really stressed. And this is before drinking gets to somewhere that you're uncomfortable with. But you're really stressed. You're like, you know what? I'm stressed. I'm going to have a drink, right? I mean, how many times do we hear this? It's like the message that's spread to us all the time. So you go and you have that drink and you go, oh, well, like you momentarily feel better. Well, your brain registers that, right? And so the next time you're stressed, guess what? You're like, oh, you know what? I had that drink before. I'm going to try it now. And so you will do that. And then over time, what happens is you kind of forget how to really deal with stress, right? If you think back in your life, I'm sure you've been through stressful situations or traumatic situations where you didn't drink, right? And you dealt with it in some way. So it is possible to do. But you know, over time, you've sort of changed your thinking to be, oh, I need alcohol to get through this. And so again, this is all about changing your thinking. Then this happens, by the way, with a lot of different things. We use the HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. It's very amazing how common it's one of those four things that are triggers for people. So in terms of how to deal with the traumatic situation, Eve, my suggestion would be this, you know, take a look at other situations you've dealt with without alcohol. What did you do then, right? Work on whether, man, is it possible for me to do this, right? Look at what other coping strategies are and really double down on, you know, the thinking and changing your thinking around, I need alcohol to deal with this. And you know, the experiment does a good job of that in sort of explaining the whole alcohol cycle and what it actually does to our brains. It's funny because it's classified as a depressant, but it's actually both a stimulant and a depressant. So it gets kind of complicated. We go into it in the videos, but my point is, Eve, like, I think if you were to really look at that picture, and I think you might be able to find some alternative ways or ways that you've dealt with it in the past that you can do now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that does make sense. And I know Eve was doing the free alcohol experiment. So, yeah, maybe jumping into the upcoming one on the 1st of July might well be a really good fit. That I know it doesn't help. I just hope my subconscious catches up. So that's great. Okay, well, we haven't got any other questions. And so if anyone's got any, do fire away quickly now, because Scott's only got about 5 minutes of his time, which we do really appreciate, Scott. You know, giving up your time for nothing to come into the group here is fantastic.
I'm happy to do it. The more people, honestly, like the more people that start to learn this stuff, the happier and more excited I get. Because this is about, and again, like, we don't tell you what to do. Like, so if you're coming into this and you're thinking, oh, I want someone to like tell me specifically when to quit drinking and what to do, this isn't for you. This program is really about, here is the information.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you get to decide, you know, and we give you coaching alongside of that. So you have the information, you have a bunch of questions, and we help you, you know, come to whatever sort of conclusion is good for you. And like, ultimately, at the end of the day, what we want is your decision, whatever decision you make, is you to be at peace with it, right?
Yeah.
And the way to be at peace is to have all the information and say, you know what, this is my path, at least for now.
Yeah, exactly that. Hey, Sina, how are you? Nice to see you. So yeah, exactly. And then with that information, you can make a conscious choice and a choice that's the right fit for you. And to be honest, most people I speak to only make one choice because they've got the facts and, you know, they change their thinking and change their beliefs off the back of it. Oh, here we go. Ron said, the July alcohol experiment, any changes from the May alcohol experiment?
I don't think so. I think we're doing it pretty much the same way. We're going to have the recorded videos are going to be live in the morning, and then our live call time, our live Facebook lives, the coaching Facebook lives are going to be rotated throughout the days. Rotated throughout times throughout the day. I have it kind of spread out as best we can. And a variety of coaches, just like before. So Simon, like I said, Simon's going to be in there. I'll be in there. Carly's going to be in there, and Annie Grace herself is going to do a few of them also.
Yeah, that's
so pretty much exactly the same, Ron.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it's normally a great bunch of people in there as well. So I'll post a link in the comments. So if anyone does want to get on board with it and sign up, how much is this one? Is it
It's,
$7?
I don't want to, I believe it's $47.
Yeah, I think it is as well. From
And
memory.
I don't know what that is in pounds. So
Yeah.
sorry. You know, I've been really good recently when I talk to people in other countries that want to talk about our products. I've been awesome at converting ahead of time, and then I completely spaced it this time. So I'm sorry.
I reckon it's about
I'm,
£30, something
yeah,
like that. Price of
I'm just,
the price of 3 bottles of wine.
yeah, exactly. Hang on, I'm just looking at it right now. So it is, yes, it's $47.
Yeah, Ron said that's a bargain. It totally is.
And that is, by the way, 37 pounds. So there you go.
£2 out. Hey, James from Candec Decorators is here. How are you? James is one of our longest sober guys. He's been sober since like teenage years, I think, or early 20s, right? Which is amazing.
That's awesome.
Always giving some great advice to people in the group as well. So yeah, that's been fantastic. I'll post a link to the live alcohol experiment that starts on the 1st of July. And if anybody wants to get involved in that, I think it's going to be awesome. We're gonna have some good people in the group and some great live sessions. And hopefully, Scott, we can do another one in here, you know, maybe in a few weeks' time, or as new things are coming up that we've got to talk about. It'd be great.
Absolutely, yeah. Happy to do it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, there's no other questions, guys. So if you're watching this back, thanks for checking it out. I'll put a link in the comments. And thanks everyone who's been watching live. Great to see you all. Thanks again, Scott.
Awesome, you bet. Hope to see you guys in the experiment. Talk soon.
See you soon. Bye.